Welcome, everybody. Let me introduce myself. Most of you know who I am. A few of you do not. I'm Roberto Gonzalez. I'm chair of the anthropology department at San Jose State University. And today we're really excited because we're having our first ever Reckmeyer Global Fellow Award presentation. Basically the Reckmeyer Global Fellow Award began last academic year for the first time. And it was made possible by Dr. William Reckmeyer and his wife, Joan Reckmeyer, out of a generous donation that they made to the department to recognize excellence among the graduate students in our applied anthropology program, as well as in the interdisciplinary master's program, which has included over the year a fair number of students who have been advised by faculty in our department. Another aspect of the award, apart from recognizing excellence, is that one of the eligibility criteria is that the student demonstrate global perspectives in his or her work. Really, we were very excited to get the fellowship launched last year. We had a number of really strong applications come in from our graduate students. In the end, the selection committee, which consisted of all the graduate faculty, chose Shilpa Shah as the recipient of the award. And so we announced this back in the spring. Our initial intention was to celebrate this event with a presentation during our annual Anthrox event, which typically happens in April, but COVID has changed all that. It's now kind of a distant memory. And it's kind of hard to know when we're going to be able to gather by the hundreds again in an intimate space like Flames Eatery. So in the meantime, what we're going to do is try to do something special anyway, which is to basically give Shilpa a chance to make a brief presentation about the work that she's done as a graduate student. She's entering her third year and is hard at work finishing up her project and project report. So she's been at this for a while and really, I think, demonstrates the best of the kinds of work our graduate students are doing. So we're really proud of her and really happy that she could make it to join us today. So the format today is, I've said a few words, so I want to turn it over to Shilpa, and she's going to say a little bit, and then she's going to share with you a video presentation that she made summarizing her master's degree project, and then there'll be time for any questions and answers that you may have for her after the event. We allotted an hour. I don't think it's probably going to take that long given the fact that we're a fairly small group, but we've got the time available to us if we need it. So with that, let me congratulate Shilpa and turn the virtual mic over to her. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for being here. You know, I'm really excited to be able to share my, work thus far with you all. I also really want to thank Dr. William Reckmeyer and his wife, Mrs. Joan Reckmeyer, for awarding this to me, because it's been such an amazing opportunity to just, to do all of this work and even be able to share it with you all. I'm super excited for it. I'm really excited to be finishing up soon and can't wait for the final product as well. So I'm very excited to for you guys to see the video. And then of course, once everything is said and done, hopefully by December, I will share the final project with you all. But yeah, thank you guys again so much. And Shannon, go ahead whenever you're ready. Thank you for sharing the video.
Hi everyone, my name is Shilpa Shah and I'm an applied anthropology MA student at San Jose State University. I have the pleasure of being awarded the Global Reckmeyer Fellowship Award and have the wonderful opportunity to present my research project to you all. My project is entitled Inclusic, inclusively representing Sikhs and Sikhism in Northern California and the Central Valley. I came up with the name Inclusic because it is not only a combination of the words inclusive and Sikh, but it also symbolizes the goal of my project, which is to include Sikhism within the realm of social understanding in California. Why did I choose to focus on Sikhs in my research project? Since the mass media coverage following September 11, the Sikh community in particular has faced an increased amount of racialization. In fact, the first victim of a revenge killing post 9/11 was Balbir Singh Sodhi, a Sikh man who was shot to death at his gas station in Mesa, Arizona. The suspect claimed that it was a display of retaliation against Osama bin Laden's actions towards what he called towel heads. In 2011, 78-year-old Gurmej Singh Atwal and 65-year-old Surinder Singh were shot to death while on their daily afternoon walk at a park in Elk Grove, California. Another paradigm-shifting event was the Oak Creek Massacre of 2012 in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. A white supremacist went on a shooting rampage at a Sikh Gurdwara, murdering 1 woman and 5 men. All of the men were wearing turbans. Since then, there has been an increased effort in tracking and documenting hate crimes against Sikhs in the United States. In 2015, the FBI finally announced they would begin tracking hate crimes against Sikhs. The Sikh Coalition, a New York-based organization that was birthed from the aftereffects of September 11, reported an average of 1 hate crime per week against Sikhs in the United States. More recently, in 2018, 71-year-old Sahib Singh Nath was beaten at a park in Manteca, California. In August of 2019, the Sikh Coalition reported on Paramjeet Singh, a 64-year-old Sikh man stabbed to death while walking in a park in Tracy, California, as the 7th attack since 2011 on an elderly man in California's Central Valley. Due to the public's misinformation on Sikhism, I chose to create a virtual museum exhibit about religion and cultural Sikh identities that will not only widely reach the public, but also serve as a culturally based informative opportunity for the public to gain knowledge on the topic of Sikhism through visuals. The portrayal of South Asian and Middle Eastern identities in the press and popular media has long conflated Sikh, Arab, and Muslim identities, with a special attention to head coverings. Discriminatory media representations of Sikhs have been around since Indian migration to the United States began, though they were wrongly labeled as Hindus. However, mainstream and social media representations after September 11, 2001, abetted a rise in xenophobia and Islamophobia in America, facilitating increased surveillance of the Muslim community, a shift in discrimination from African Americans to Middle Easterners, and marginalization. Mass media coverage following September 11 presented Muslims in the stereotypical form of wearing turbans, having long beards, and being associated with weaponry. Many Sikhs in the US and elsewhere have been subjected to discrimination, verbal harassment, and violent attacks, largely as a result of being mistaken for Muslims or Arabs. Sikhs immigrated to California's Central Valley in the late 19th and early 20th century. They were crucial to the development of the agricultural industry in California. Although Sikhs are an important aspect of the economy in the United States, they continue to face public misunderstanding due to misinformation and lack of public knowledge. In this project, I worked in partnership with the Sikh Coalition, a community-based organization whose focus is civil and human rights for all, to create a virtual museum exhibit that inclusively represents Sikh religion and culture in Northern California and the Central Valley. Through my assessments of the Sikh religion and culture, historical Sikh migration, and Sikh oral histories, I created an intervention that will influence public opinion, cultural acceptance, and conversations across difference without bringing up historical instances of humiliation. The data collected through my interviews and photographed materials included in the virtual museum exhibit provide significant progress towards the public's understanding of Sikh religion and culture and aid in the inclusive representation of Sikhism. The significance of this project comes as a result of the present-day misconception of Sikhs and Sikhism. Sikhs are renowned for their aid within their communities. They are historically known to fight for justice, yet they continue to be targets of racial injustice. This project is an endeavor to assist the public in understanding Sikh religion and culture. Rather than further publicizing occurrences of humiliation, however, it is crucial that this project accurately represents Sikh religion and culture in an inclusive manner. A virtual museum exhibit that delineates the purpose of Sikh cultural markers will serve to both educate the public and counter negative stereotypes. Virtual ethnographic methods became my core approach throughout my research. Though I was unable to meet with my interview participants due to the pandemic, I was able to make connections to Sikh community members beforehand. Additionally, Inderpreet Kaur, the Sikh Coalition's Southern California Community Development Manager, with whom I came in touch with while looking for an organization to partner with, helped as my key informant during the course of my research. Kaur's emphasis on direct communication with and participation of members of the Sikh community led me to use community-based participatory research and respondent-driven sampling. My research involved conversing with members of the Sikh community to produce conversations on their religious experiences while living in Northern California and the Central Valley. Participants were able to openly engage with me, which set a precursor to the content of the virtual exhibit. Participants were then asked to submit photographs of their personal items to allow for the exhibit to be created by the Sikh community members alone. It was crucial for me to omit my own knowledge of Sikhism in order to actively listen and understand from the standpoint of my Sikh participants. The virtual exhibit was created on Squarespace through collaborations with San Jose State University's Anthropology Department, the Sikh Coalition, and local Sikh interview participants. As both mediator and curator, I was responsible for ensuring suitable communication between myself and each stakeholder in order to gain enough guidance, material, and information to create the virtual exhibit. Elements showcased in the virtual exhibit include materialistic items, which are cultural identifiers that represent the Sikh identities of the individuals who were interviewed. They are featured to demonstrate devotion, faith, selfless service, justice, honesty, and equality. This virtual museum exhibit on the Sikh religion and culture, which is accessible to the public, will facilitate greater awareness of and engagement with Sikh culture and practices, with attention to their extensive history in California culture. It will allow for the intervention into how a society views a minority culture and religion that is much maligned in American public imagination. The main goal of this project was to get firsthand involvement and contributions from the local Sikh community to create a publicly accessible platform which shares cultural and religious knowledge on Sikhs and Sikhism. More importantly, my goal is to create an exhibit that facilitates further dialogue on public opinion, cultural acceptance, and difference by avoiding incidents of exclusion. In addition, it is my hope to have the virtual exhibit circulate outside of Northern California and Central Valley to be used as an informative platform. The challenge in doing so was creating an exhibit that embodied the intricacy of Sikhism's past and present without, however, revisiting an essentialization of Sikhs. A subsequent goal is to maintain the personal and professional relationships created between myself, the Sikh Coalition, San Jose State's Anthropology Department, and members of the Sikh community, which will hopefully expand outside of Northern California and the Central Valley. Through Inclusic, I aim to encourage further research on the integration of Sikhs and Sikhism within communities outside of my research focus that will lead to countering negative stereotypes associated with Sikhism. Lastly, I would like to thank the following people and organizations for supporting this project. Thank you to Dr. William and Mrs. Joan Reckmeyer for recognizing my work and awarding me the Reckmeyer Global Fellowship Award. Thank you to the entire faculty and staff of San Jose State University's Anthropology Department for the continued encouragement, support, and guidance. Thank you to all my interview participants who provided me with such beneficial content throughout my research. And thank you to Inderpreet Kaur and the Sikh Coalition for partnering and working with me to create Inclusic. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Shilpa, for that
Thank
presentation.
you.
Really, really well done. Well, the we now have time for questions. If any of you would like to ask Shilpa about her work or the challenges she's encountered, which I mean, I think for me as chair of the department, one of the things that's impressed me a great deal over the past year and a half is how creative both our faculty and students have had to be when doing their research, be it ethnographic research or lab research, with the kinds of limitations that have been in place, from lockdowns to social distancing to all the rest. So let me just open it up and ask if any of you have questions that you would like to ask Shilpa. Jan?
Well, Shilpa, at the same time you were doing this really innovative internship, putting together a virtual exhibit. So how did one experience inform your project? How did your experience with the museum help you kind of think through how you put together your project?
Yeah, that was actually really helpful internship, because I was able to similarly create an exhibit that was virtual for the textile artist. And so, you know, it's almost the same thing, because I had never done anything like that before. So this was really helpful in helping to create what I'm doing right now. So getting the experience from that. And when I was working with the Museum of Quilts and Textiles, I was essentially doing the same thing. The whole theme was around inclusion. And so it just tied in together really well.
Although it was a really different kind of inclusion, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that Museum of Quilts and Textiles project, like specifically who it was profiling and what the goals were there that the museum had? Because it's really, really fascinating, a fascinating exhibit. And I think the career opportunities that opens up for you down the line are going to be tremendous, because out of all this past year and a half, I think, has come the realization that virtual museums are going to have to be an essential part of the future for those kinds of institutions, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So I worked, I believe it was last summer, for the San Jose Museum of Quilts and Textiles, and I created a virtual museum exhibit for textile artist Kira Dominguez Holtgren. I don't know if any of you guys, it was my first time hearing of her, but yeah, so she creates these really intricate textiles, and it's all about her, I guess, cultural background, because she's, you know, Indian and Hispanic and Hawaiian, just a mixture of many different cultures. And so I guess, her whole exhibit was just on how to tie in all of those cultures that she's a part of into one, you know, huge textile. So it was really cool, very interesting. I can share the link with you guys as well, and maybe the chat or something. But yeah, it was really, really cool. Yeah.
Thanks for doing that. And Jan, I'm not sure if you can queue up or if you have access to the link. If not, why don't we take a next question? I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Let me find it and I'll post it. How does that sound? And that way someone else can ask a question.
It's okay. I'm a hardcore member of that museum.
I figured you might be. That's not exactly why I assumed this, but I just figured, you know, maybe perhaps Jan, by the way, just on a side note here, while someone else is getting up the courage for a question, Jan made two gorgeous quilts for each of my children when they came into the world. So I can attest to her skill in the textiles and quilts area. So gives me another chance to thank her for that, by the way. Any other questions here? Jonathan, yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Shilpa, for this very important project of yours, especially given the political climate of the day. I was wondering if you, as part of your online museum exhibit, include the ritual dagger, and if so, if you anticipate any problems in explaining that to the general public.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Yeah, so one of my photographs actually does have the dagger in it. It was, I believe one of the pictures was also in the video that we just saw, but it was like a wedding picture, and the groom he has the dagger. It's more of a sword, but it's like the same thing, and he's wearing it. So in the virtual museum exhibit that I'm doing, I'm kind of explaining what it's called the 5K. So it's just like the the five main, I guess, components or important components of Sikhism. So I do explain that in the exhibit as well. Yeah.
Other questions? Can I ask one? Shilpa, I'm really just again fascinated by how researchers in our department have been doing this virtual work. And in your case, you cited the use of virtual ethnographic research, which is something really different from, I'm guessing, from what you were trained in when you studied anthropology as an undergraduate, or during your graduate methods class. So I'm just wondering what that looked like. What were the challenges of building rapport or trust with the people you were interviewing? What challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them? And what do you think the limitations, taught you about how to be creative
Yeah.
in doing this kind of research? Because that's really what it demands, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I know I really wish I could have done things more face to face than I did get a chance to. So I think the limitations were definitely, being able to get to know my participants a little better than I did, because through Zoom, I mean, everyone was really, really helpful and very kind and everything when I did speak to them and interview them. But, it's hard to really get to know someone, I feel, unless I meet them face to face. And I think that was really hard. Also, I guess kind of having a conversation virtually it's just not the same. So I felt like the interviews were a lot shorter than I would have hoped for them to be. But then also, I guess getting participants to begin with was also kind of hard, because I did the Qualtrics survey. So then I was just asking literally everyone that I know that might know someone that's Sikh to just pass along the surveys. And then that was probably the hardest, getting participants to begin with. Yeah. Oh.
I see a question in the chat box from Maida, but I'm not sure if everyone can see it. I think you probably can. It says, as a researcher, what was the most exciting experience that you had doing this? And what do you plan to do in the future with your research project? I guess she means apart from the exhibit.
Oh, got it. So yeah, the most exciting experience, I think, was definitely hearing the stories from my participants, and then receiving the photographs, because they're the ones that took the photographs for me and then sent them to me. So receiving all of those photographs and just seeing all the different things that everyone sent me, and then reading the descriptions, was really cool, because everyone has sort of their own, personal take on the different items that they sent me. So I really enjoyed that part of it. The future with this research project. So I'm working with the Sikh Coalition, or like in partnership with them. I'm really hoping to have them sort of pass this along, and then maybe extend it, make it bigger than it is, because they are like a national, organization. So rather than just staying local like I am right now and just distributing it among California, I would like it to go, hopefully, national, but we'll see. That is the hope. Yeah.
I'm wondering well, just one thing to consider, we now have a track record of students also publishing about their research in journals like Practicing Anthropology. So I think you've got a really compelling story to share here, both in terms of not just the subject matter that you're focusing on, which is so important and anthropological, but also in terms of the creative methods that you've had to employ. And I think there's a lot of interest right now across the discipline in how these new kinds of experiments went and what the challenges were, and to give future generations of anthropologists and students too, and some ideas for how to go about doing their work.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I actually did not think about that, but I would like to do something like that. Oh, sorry. You're muted, Roberto. Oh.
Whoops. Yeah, too long on Zoom. I see that Fernando has a hand up, so I will defer to Fernando.
Thank you. Well, I need to introduce myself. I'm Fernando Fernandez. I work in Sacred Heart Community Service in a gardening and food justice program. And Mayra invited me to participate in this presentation. So thank you so much, and congratulations, Shilpa, for this presentation and this work. I'm just wondering, when you make your interviews, when you present this idea for this community and these members, what was their thoughts about this? And what was their hope in your work? Because I'm pretty sure they haven't heard about an idea like this in the past. So maybe it was something really new, or maybe that was something that they really expect that have an impact in the broad community to make them feel more inclusive in the American society.
Yeah, definitely. So, so far, thankfully, I've received only positive, feedback. Especially, I myself am not Sikh, so I think for them to see someone that is not Sikh, sort of rallying for them, is something that they're, like you said, they have not seen before, and I think that makes them very happy and very, I guess, I don't know, just supportive of everything. And that makes me also very happy to know that I'm doing something that they would like to see and that they appreciate and will be as helpful as possible for. But yeah, so thankfully, like I said, just positive feedback, which is great.
If I could just add one thing, Shilpa, and I thank you, Fernando, for that question. It really made me think about how applicable the kind of work you're doing is for other ethnic and religious groups throughout our country at a time when there's a clear pattern of hate crimes by white supremacist groups and all of the things that we read about in the news every day. So, I really think that your project's exciting for that reason too, because of its potential applicability to so many different other groups within the society.
Definitely, yeah. And I think someone brought this up too, the political climate today, right? With everything that's going on today, I've seen a lot of just posts on social media that are saying, don't, from my Sikh friends that are like, don't confuse us with, what is going on right now. And it just, it's just so relevant now too than it was 3 years ago when I started. So yeah, it's crazy.
Jonathan, you had a hand up again?
Yes, not that it necessarily follows, but I was just wondering if your family comes from the Punjab originally.
We don't know. My family's from Gujarat.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the heart of the BJP, even more compelling.
Are there any other questions today? Okay, well, if not, then I think we'll call it a session. And I just want to thank Shilpa once more for an awesome presentation, great presentation.
Thank
and
you.
I also want to send a final shout out to 3 people. One of them is here, Shannon Gallagher and Agnes Borgia, who are incredibly talented office staff. Shannon really pulled this particular event together here, did a great job of communicating with Shilpa to make it happen. and helping me get the word out about the event through social media. And then finally, apart from Shannon and Agnes, I also want to thank Melissa Beresford, who's not here today. She's one of our assistant professors, and she worked with Shilpa as she developed her presentation and served kind of as an informal mentor in the creation of that particular part of today's presentation. So she couldn't make it today because of family obligations, but she really wanted to be here and wanted me to pass along her congratulations as well to you, Shilpa. So
Thank you.
great. Thanks to the rest of you for being here today. And for those of you that are faculty and staff at San Jose State, welcome once more to the new semester. And we'll be seeing you all soon, probably virtually, but I'll also be around physically every once and again. So nice to see you all. Bye-bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys. Bye. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.